Hi guys, welcome to Lenette Looks. Today I'm going to be talking about Daisy Jones and the Six. The story is very unique the way it's being told because it's being told through an interview process. So you hear each band member discussing how their experience was in the band and how they came to be Daisy Jones and the Six. You get to know each member and through their own lens and through their own experience how they felt the band was, how they felt being in the band, what they thought of Daisy, their experiences that led to the great success of the band and their music, and also eventually to their demise of the band, of them working together, and why the band broke up in the end. Their success was so grand and so great. What could have possibly ended that on such a high note? Why did the band members want to not be together anymore? So the story follows Daisy Jones, and Daisy Jones had her own musical career before she got involved with the Six, the band, the Six. The band and Daisy Jones, they didn't know each other until later on, and as separate musicians or musical acts, they were never as heightened or as successful as they were when they finally got together. Now, the story starts in the 1970s. This is the era that they're in. It's a historical fiction novel. It was so unique to have a story being told in this manner, in this way of having each of the band members being interviewed and telling their story. I did not read the book because I listened to a lot of people and a lot of comments stating that they didn't really get into the book because of the way it was written through interview process, but when they listened to the audio book, it just brought the book to life, and you hear each member talking about their experiences, and it was a much more interesting and better experience. So I thought, let me go ahead and based off of their recommendations, so many people already had said listen to the audiobook because it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. So that's exactly what I did. You get to hear each band member talking and discussing how their experience was, and hearing the characters and their voices really brought the story to life. This book is set in the 70s, in that era, and it is very, very riddled with sex, drugs, and obviously rock and roll, the music that they were playing and creating. I am not drawn to watching this type of genre, a drama that has a lot of drug use, abuse, alcoholism, sometimes even almost romanticizing that, like that's the cool thing to do in that era, or that is the cool thing to do during that time because everybody was doing it. And I'm just not really into those type of stories, but because of the popularity of this book, I really wanted to give it a try and go out of my comfort zone, out of my romantic, beautiful, Hallmarky, style romance novels, or, other romance novels that I just love. And I thought, let me give this a try. It's so popular, and now it's on TV with Blake Lively, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and find out what everybody's raving about. I would not rave about this story, but I must say that Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author, really brought to life and really made these characters real and raw and gritty, and she showcased what it is like in that world really well. And I applaud her for that. I don't like watching movies with heavy drug use and sex and cheating and all of that, which is all in here. I thought she did a great job with setting that world for you. You feel like you're like a fly on the wall, like, wow, this is really going on. Daisy Jones, she was very, very, very much a part of that world. She was addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol. She was constantly messing up, constantly getting into situations that you just wanted to shake her. Like I wanted to shake her, like snap out of it, you know, get out of that world, that foggy, running away from reality type of world. There was even one situation where she's like high as a kite and she's in the pool and she gets out and she steps on broken glass and she's not even aware that she stepped on glass, and she's walking all along around the pool, and she has no idea that she stepped on glass and her foot is bleeding, and she's leaving marks all over and with her bleeding foot because she's so out of it. There's so many instances where she was just out of it. And she wasn't the only character in the story that abused drugs and alcohol. Billy, the other lead singer in the group, he also had a alcohol problem. You'll see what his experience was. It was definitely different than Daisy's on how he approached his alcohol abuse and what he did. He also was very wild and did other things outside of his marriage that almost destroyed his relationship. This is gonna have spoilers, but I'm gonna try not to give it all away. But by now, maybe you've read the book or listened to the audio or are watching the TV series, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. He pretty much was going on tour and just destroying pieces of his relationship everywhere he went. He just did things that were against his vows. So there is a lot of cheating involved here, a lot of drugs, you know, music that they're creating together. But each of the characters, there's several band members, like all of them had issues, all of them had problems, all of them were going through something that destroyed them as individuals and as band members. So because of all the issues that they had, it was really tough, especially tough for them to actually have camaraderie and get together and have like this pleasant, awesome experience making this beautiful music. And even at the height of their career, they were in such disarray, such turmoil, all of them, that they couldn't even enjoy it. There were bits and pieces where I'm like, okay, these interviews are interesting, but not that interesting. I was really annoyed with Daisy. I felt like I just wanted to shake her out of all of that because she kept using and abusing and kept doing it and coming in late to the musical sessions. And it was just one thing after another where you're just like, oh my God, when is she gonna stop? There's a part where you're like, wow, even that didn't stop her. Like near-death experience did not stop her. What is going to stop her? You know, like sometimes you wonder like, wow, I guess this is not rock bottom for that person. You know, could it be like near death, that's still not rock bottom for that person to snap out of it and try to get off of that ride? You know, it's still not enough. So again, the story is told with all these interviews with each member. It is so raw, it is so in your face, like that era of the 70s. These characters brought together through music, and I was really hoping and wishing for certain things to be different, and I hoped that it would go that way. But Tara Jenkins Reid, I did read Evelyn Hugo, and I swear she really does create characters where you're just like, oh my gosh, when is this person gonna stop digging the grave? When is this person gonna finally stop and snap out of her or his destructive ways? But she doesn't go along that, like, you know, happy, sweet sort of ending or sweet sort of evolution to a character. And that is real life. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone has an epiphany where the light bulb turns on and they're like, wow, this makes me want to change. This makes me want to change my life for the better. And the author really does shine a light on that. And I kind of like that because, again, even though this is not the type of story that I normally gravitate towards, it showcases the world we live in. There's different characters, there's different experiences. And just because I don't necessarily gravitate towards it doesn't mean that it's not a good story. Or, just because I don't like reading those types of experiences doesn't mean that that story is invalid or that story doesn't resonate and show something to learn from. So if you're gonna read or listen to this audiobook, just know there's tons. It is riddled with drug abuse. It is riddled with alcohol abuse. There's also love in there. There's a couple of love stories in there. One is actually between, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to, get spoiled or know a little bit more on what happens in this story, stop it right now and go and listen to that audiobook or read the book. But Billy, the lead singer, who I told you was married to Camilla, they have a child together, a daughter, and he is the lead singer, and so is Daisy Jones in that group. And they had such an attraction towards each other through the whole story. It was this tug of war. It was this push and pull. It was this constant magnetism. And you get to see Daisy experiencing a love that she cannot have. And what I admired about Billy, even though he really messed up a lot of times, not with Daisy, but he messed up a lot of times, he kept himself cool when he was around Daisy because of the fact that she was an addict, just like he was. He didn't want to, one, risk his marriage to Camilla, who supported him through thick and thin, and he also felt like Daisy was danger. She was a dangerous woman. She was fire, and he did not want to get burned. He did not want to get in her universe. He did not want to be a part of that world anymore, that drug world, that alcohol abuse, that foggy, dazed, just destruction at its best in that type of world. He wanted to make music, and he loved creating and writing songs, and that was his passion. And he wanted to save his marriage. He wanted to be loyal finally. You're gonna see through this story what actually happens between them and what Daisy does during the process of her really wanting to be with him, but she couldn't. So what she does instead, you'll see that unfolding little by little. Another thing that I liked about this was Camilla. She knew who Daisy Jones, she knew about her character, even though she didn't know her very well, but she had been around and she had seen her, and she knew and she saw the way they were on stage together singing, and she wasn't dumb. She knew what was happening. Like, they had this sort of magnetism. And the part where Camilla confronts Daisy was really, really good. It was really good. It was really dramatic. It was very riveting. Camilla just confronts Daisy and tells her a lot. And that I'm not going to spoil. I'm not going to tell you anything that she tells Daisy, but she gets the point across to her really well. That I really liked. It was very entertaining. There's another character that, oh my gosh, she was so annoying. None of these characters really are very likable. None of these characters, I wasn't really rooting for just about any of these characters, but it was just a interesting story. I didn't root for any of these characters because I just felt like they were so flawed, and I also felt like they kept messing up, and it was just so annoying. I also wanted Billy to I don't know. It was I wanted the story to go certain ways and develop in certain ways, because I didn't feel like the characters evolved, aside from Billy like changing what he was doing, with his addiction and everything, and his relationship with Camilla. Aside from that, I just didn't feel like, I mean, even him, he could have had a bigger epiphany or evolution to his story. But I didn't feel like any of the characters were there. Where's the lessons learned? Like, where do you see more of that in this story? And I guess the author, that wasn't the point. It was just to showcase their lives and how they met, how they came to be, how the band was created, how they worked together musically, and how flawed some of these characters were, and that led to eventually the group's breakup. So there's another couple in there. It goes through the attraction that they had towards each other as band members, but it also takes a view into what happens when someone in the relationship does not want to be together anymore, and the other does, and what eventually breaks them up. It's a very controversial subject. It's about pregnancy and what happens when one person wants to have a baby and be together, and when the other person does not. And I felt like the way it was told, she's not trying to people please at all. The author does not try to people please. It's like, this is what this person is doing, and that's it. There's no sorry, there's no makeup, there's no like, she's just gonna keep being like this, and that's it. I didn't care for the female character in that role. I really felt that Karen, who was the female in there, I felt like she was super insensitive in the relationship to even his feelings about it. I was so annoyed with her. I was super annoyed with her. I felt like she was so immature. She was very insensitive. I just felt like she just made it seem like it was nothing what happened. Anyway, like I said, none of the characters in this story are very likable. But I just felt like her in particular, she was so insensitive to the process and what she went through, and I just felt like, wow, like there was no care about what happened. And then afterwards, I did want them to be together as a couple. I wanted them to work things out, and you'll see what happens. But I felt like, wow, I just felt like she was so insensitive, so like it was something so trivial to her, which it shouldn't be. And the sensitivity chip was gone, There was no conversation, long conversation. It was just so not, it didn't end well, I felt like, with their relationship. There was no real conversation that made it so that they were good in the end, I felt. But again, that's me looking at the glass half full, me wanting a happy ending, me wanting it to work out for everyone the way I feel things should work out and be pleasant and nice, and in the end you're good and everything worked out and you have love for each other. Like, I don't know, I just wanted it to be like that. This is not that kind of story. Like I said, I hardly ever read this style of story, but again, I wanted to find out, out of curiosity. And I'm glad I did read it. It was very interesting to me, but it wasn't something that I'm going to say like, wow, this was like amazing, I loved it. The subject matters were drugs, infidelity, other things happening that are not like bright and shiny and free feeling and nice. So again, that's okay. This is the type of story that Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author, wanted to portray and tell, and she did it well. She did it well. I gave this book 3 stars. I would have given it 4 stars. I really liked certain aspects of it, certain parts. I would say that she did portray the abusive personality, the personality that is hooked on drugs and alcohol really well. I did feel for her when she felt she wanted something that she couldn't have. I felt that in the writing and the way her character was portrayed. And I was to a certain extent rooting for her until I wasn't, because it was like she just kept putting her feet in the mud over and over again. This band could have been so much more than it was, and they were at the height of their musical career. Their fan base was huge and everything, but it was just the members were so flawed and so in turmoil that they just couldn't survive together. They just couldn't survive together as a band, continuing to make music in the way their lives were. Their lifestyle was outside of the band, and even during their musical creative process, it was still like there was tension. There were things happening that the band was like, band members were just tired already. They wanted out. I do recommend reading this book. Again, if you are triggered by those subjects, you might want to stay clear of it. But if it doesn't bother you, I would say this is one to read. One more thing that I want to say is that the ending, I wanted the ending to be better than it was. And Taylor Jenkins Reid did not give an ending that, I don't know, that is wrapping it up in a bow. And not to say that I wanted it wrapped up in a bow, but at least something. I felt like the ending was not fair. I felt like, you'll see, and I don't want to give this away, I wanted a different ending. I felt like it was not fair what happened to Camilla, Billy's wife, and I wanted, again, evolution of these characters. I wanted it to be more developed, them to have epiphanies, them to have more development, a lesson learned, something more than where they were at the end. So again, I recommend this book. It is entertaining, it is interesting, and it's also something to look at and say, wow, I definitely don't want to go that route, you know, kind of like anti-drug, anti-alcoholism, you know, sort of thing. You should look at it in that sense, like, wow, I'm reading this. This is nothing to be romanticized about, this type of lifestyle. This lifestyle is something to be like shocked and wow, like that's really gritty and grimy, and that's something that we don't need more of in this world, right? More drug abuse or people running from themselves and turning to that as a sort of band-aid. I'm getting a little bit too deep in this, but I feel a little bit more stronger about this subject. In any case, check it out. Check out Daisy Jones and the Six. Listen to the audiobook. I think that's gonna be more entertaining than the actual book. I haven't read the book, but based off of all the comments and recommendations on this book on Goodreads, I went that route and I was happy that I did. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help support my channel, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.